The ritual beneath the moons. The night was cold. Two pale moons hung in the sky, casting a silver light over the valley. The wind carried strange whispers. In the center of the valley, a large pit had been dug into the ground. Around it stood many figures in dark robes, their faces hidden. They moved slowly, chanting in a deep, strange language. In the pit lay a young alien girl. Her skin was a soft blue, glowing faintly in the moonlight. Her eyes were shut tight, but tears slipped from the corners. Her hands were tied, and her small body was half covered in dirt. She was shaking from cold and fear. This was not a funeral. This was a sacrifice. The villagers believed the land was cursed. Crops were dying. Water had turned black. They were afraid. The elder had said the gods were angry, and only a pure soul, buried alive, could bring peace, and so they chose the girl. She had no family. She was different from the others. Quiet, strange, perfect for blame. The drums began to beat louder. One by one, the villagers dropped small stones into the pit, whispering their hopes and fears. The girl flinched each time, too weak to speak, too afraid to scream. Her body sank deeper into the cold dirt. On the nearby hill, a man was walking, a human. His name was Eli, a former soldier from Earth, now a traveler among the stars. He had come to this world weeks ago, hoping to trade with local villages. Tonight he was simply walking to clear his head. He liked the quiet, but tonight, the quiet was wrong. He stopped when he heard the drums, then, chanting, he narrowed his eyes. The sound came from below. Eli crouched low and moved silently toward the light of the fires. What he saw made his heart freeze. A young girl, half buried in the ground, surrounded by silent villagers. The ritual was nearly complete. Her eyes opened for a moment, wide, afraid, glowing with pain, and then closed again. Eli stepped back. He didn't understand the language, but the meaning was clear. They were going to leave her there, to die. His breath caught in his throat. He knew alien worlds had different ways, different beliefs, but this was murder, no matter the planet. The villagers slowly turned and walked away, one by one, their torches fading into the night. Soon the valley was quiet again. Only the wind remained. Eli waited until he was sure they were gone. Then, he ran down the hill. Toward the pit, he jumped in without a second thought. "Hey, can you hear me?" he said softly, brushing the dirt from her face. Her skin was cold. Her lips moved, but no words came. Her breathing was shallow. He worked quickly, pulling away. The dirt from her arms, her chest, her legs. She was so light. He lifted her into his arms and climbed out of the pit. She didn't fight. She simply clung to him, weak and shaking. Eli wrapped her in his thick coat and looked around. No one was coming yet. But they might. He had just broken their sacred ritual. If they saw him with the girl, they might attack. But he didn't care. She was alive, and he had no intention of letting her die. As he carried her into the woods, the moons watched from above. Silent, cold, bright. But something had changed in the night. And it began with one man, and a girl who should have been dead. The stranger, in the fog. The forest was thick with fog. Cold air curled between the trees like long fingers. Every step made soft crunching sounds beneath Eli's boots. He held the alien girl close to his chest. Her body was cold, barely moving, but she was still breathing. Eli didn't know where he was going. He only knew he had to get away from the village. Far away. If they found him with the girl, they might call him a thief, a killer, or worse. He moved fast, weaving through the trees. The fog grew heavier. Soon he could barely see 5 steps ahead. Behind him, the village drums had stopped. The silence was even louder now. Eli found a hollow between 2 old trees, dry and hidden. He laid the girl down gently and pulled off his coat to wrap around her tighter. Her small hands twitched. Her eyes opened just a little. "You're safe," Eli whispered. "They're gone. I'm not going to hurt you." The girl didn't answer, but her eyes stayed on him for a few seconds before closing again. Eli lit a small, smokeless fire. It gave just enough heat to warm them both. He opened a ration pack and carefully pressed some of the soft food to her lips. At first, she didn't move. Then, slowly, she took a bite. She was alive, but just barely. Suddenly, a sound came from the trees, soft, crunching footsteps. Eli froze. He grabbed his old blaster from his belt and crouched low, eyes scanning the fog. The footsteps stopped. The trees whispered in the wind, then nothing. He stayed still for a full minute before returning to the girl. But he didn't put the weapon away. He had a feeling this wasn't over. Far away, back at the village, the elder stood in front of the empty pit. His face was hard, his eyes angry. "She was taken," he said quietly. The others gasped. "By who?" one asked. The elder closed his eyes, listening to the wind. "A human," he answered. "I saw him watching. I thought he would stay back. I was wrong." "What do we do now?" another voice asked. The elder turned. "She must die. If not, the gods will punish us. We all saw the signs. Crops dying, rivers fading. She is the reason. But she is just a child," a woman said. "She is cursed," the elder hissed. "And now she is with an outsider. A human." The crowd grew quiet, angry, afraid. The elder raised his hand. "At dawn we hunt." Back in the woods, the alien girl stirred again. Her fingers gripped Eli's coat. Her lips moved. She tried to speak. "Shh," Eli whispered. "You're okay. Just rest." But she shook her head. She pointed weakly into the fog. Eli turned, confused. "What is it?" She said one word. Broken, soft, but clear. "Run." A sharp noise cracked through the trees. A twig snapped. Eli didn't wait. He picked her up fast, kicked dirt over the fire, and ran. The fog twisted around him like a living thing. Shapes moved in the distance, maybe real, maybe not. He ran harder. Branches scratched his face. Roots tripped his feet, but he held the girl tightly, never letting go. Behind them, the fog carried whispers, angry voices. The hunt had begun. After a long time, Eli found a cave hidden in a cliffside. Small, dark, but dry. He crawled inside and laid the girl down again. She was shaking now, not from cold, but from fear. "Who are you?" he asked softly. "Why did they do this to you?" She looked at him. Her lips moved again. "I'm not cursed," she said, voice weak but firm. Eli's eyes widened. She could speak his language, at least a little. "They lied?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "I'm different. They fear me." He leaned back, trying to understand. "So they buried you? To get rid of you?" She nodded again. Eli looked out into the mist. "They're hunting us," he said. "They'll come." The girl met his eyes. "Then we must go far. Where they can't reach." Her voice was soft, but something in her eyes had changed. She wasn't just scared anymore, she was awake. Her eyes opened in terror. Eli woke to a sharp gasp. It was still dark inside the cave. The fire had burned low. The fog outside was thicker than before, turning the entrance into a glowing white wall. But it wasn't the cold that woke him. It was her. The alien girl sat upright, eyes wide, her breath quick and short. She clutched her chest, trembling. "Hey," Eli said softly, sitting up. "It's okay. You're safe." But she wasn't looking at him. She was staring at the fog beyond, the cave's mouth. Her lips moved quickly in her own language, a soft chant, fearful like a prayer. Eli moved closer. "What is it?" he asked. She pointed. Eli turned, gun ready. Nothing. But the girl's terror was real. Her whole body was shaking. Her wide eyes were filled with a deep, raw fear, not just of being caught. Something worse. "Tell me," Eli said. What did you see? She didn't answer. Instead, she touched his arm. Her fingers glowed faintly, just for a second. A strange warmth passed through his skin, and then a picture entered his mind. A memory. He saw her, younger, standing in a field. Flowers bloomed around her wherever she walked. Her hands touched the earth and water sprang from dry ground. He saw villagers watching, at first amazed, then afraid. They whispered behind her back, called her cursed. Later, he saw her crying as the elders tied her hands. They buried her while she begged for mercy. Then, darkness. Eli gasped and pulled his arm away. What was that? She didn't answer. Her eyes were still locked on the fog. Suddenly, distant sounds echoed through the mist. Clicks, growls. Not human. They're not alone, she whispered. They sent the Seekers. Eli's heart dropped. What are Seekers? She looked at him, her voice low. Machines. Built long ago. They smell power and destroy it. Eli grabbed his pack and stood. Then we can't stay here. She tried to rise but fell. Her legs were too weak. Eli picked her up again. Hang on. They rushed back into the mist, heading away from the noise. Every step was blind. The fog felt alive now, thick like soup, crawling across Eli's skin. Suddenly, a high-pitched whine filled the air. A red beam sliced through the fog, barely missing Eli's arm. He jumped behind a tree, clutching the girl tight. Out of the mist, a shape appeared. Metal legs, glowing eyes, and sharp blades spinning slowly on both sides of its body. A hunter machine. The girl buried her face in Eli's chest. Her body glowed faintly, and the machine turned toward them. It had sensed her again. Eli pulled his blaster. Go back to your old gods, he muttered, then fired. The shot hit the machines. Sparks flew, it twitched, then lunged. Eli ran, zigzagging through the trees. The ground shook as the Seeker gave chase. The girl whispered something, too soft to hear, and then suddenly the fog shifted. Thick vines erupted from the ground behind them, tangling the Seeker's legs. The machine screamed, blades cutting, at the plants, but they only tightened. Eli turned back in shock. Did you do that? The girl looked weak but nodded. I can't always control it, she whispered. But when I'm scared, it happens. Eli stared at her glowing skin, the vines still moving on their own behind them. She wasn't cursed. She was powerful. Too powerful, and that's why they buried her. By dawn, Eli had found a high ridge far from the village. The fog was clearing. He laid the girl under a tree and wrapped her in his coat again. She looked up at him. They won't stop, she said. I know, Eli answered, but neither will I. She smiled faintly. For the first time, not from fear, but trust. She had seen death. She had seen hate. But this man, this stranger from another world, had held her like she mattered. And that gave her hope. Hunted by her own people. Morning light touched the trees, painting the leaves with gold. The fog had thinned, but the danger had not. Eli sat on a rock, watching the path below the ridge. His blaster rested in his lap. His eyes didn't blink much. He had barely slept. Behind him, the alien girl slept, her chest rising and falling slowly. The fire had warmed her, but her strength hadn't returned. Then she stirred. Her eyes blinked open, and she looked around. We're still alive, she whispered. Barely, Eli said with a small smile. The girl sat up slowly. They'll come again. They won't stop. Eli nodded. Yeah, I figured. She looked at him, more serious now. They're not just hunting me. They're hunting you too. For helping me. Eli shrugged. Let them come. I've fought worse. No, she said, shaking her head. You don't understand. These aren't soldiers. These are my people, my own blood. Far away, deep in the village square, Torches burned in daylight. The elder stood on the high stone, his hand raised. "We were warned," he shouted. "The human has taken the cursed one. He protects her. He stands against us." The crowd murmured, confused. A hunter stepped forward. His armor was dark, his eyes cold. "Give me your permission," he said. "I will track the human. I will return with the girl's head." The elder nodded. "Bring them both if you can, dead or alive." Eli packed fast. He knew staying in one place too long was dangerous now. The girl looked up at him. "You don't have to help me anymore." "I didn't have to the first time either," Eli said. "But I did." She paused. "Why?" He glanced at her. "Because when I looked at you, buried in that dirt, I saw someone who didn't deserve to be there." She lowered her head. "No one ever said that to me before." "Then they were fools," Eli replied. They moved again, slowly, because the girl could only walk short distances. She leaned on him for balance. Her legs still shook, but her steps were stronger than yesterday. As they reached the edge of a quiet river, she stopped. "There's a place," she said, "past the cliffs, a ruin, old and hidden. No one dares go there, even the hunters fear it." Eli nodded. "Sounds perfect." Suddenly the wind shifted. The girl froze. "Do you feel that?" she whispered. Eli looked around. "What?" "They're close," she said. "One of them, I know his steps." "Who?" he asked. She looked away. "My cousin." At that moment, a sharp sound cracked through the air. A spear flew past Eli's head and sank into the tree behind him. He pulled the girl down and rolled behind a rock. Voices shouted through the trees. "She's here, with the human." Footsteps thundered, blades shined, armor clanged. "They found us," Eli said, checking his weapon. "Get ready to run." "No," she said, grabbing his arm. "I'll handle this." "What?" She stood, weak but calm. Her hands glowed faintly. Then, from the trees, a tall alien male stepped out. His eyes were sharp. His blade was drawn. "Sela," he said. "Come home, stop this, you're sick, you bring ruin." Eli raised his weapon. "Back off," the man growled. "Stay out of this, human." But the girl, Sela, stepped between them. "No more lies," she said. "I was born with power. I never hurt anyone. You feared me because I made plants bloom, because I healed wounds. You called me cursed because you didn't understand me." Her cousin stepped forward. "You scared the elders, the signs. There were no signs," she shouted. "The land died because you cut down every tree. The rivers dried because you poisoned them. I was just easy to blame." The wind blew harder. Her eyes glowed now. Her hair floated slightly. Energy moved through the grass beneath her feet. Her cousin's face twisted. "You are dangerous." "No," she said. "I'm awake." The earth rumbled. Roots burst from the ground. Trees moved aside. The hunters behind him screamed and dropped their weapons. Eli pulled her back. "Sela, stop, you'll hurt them." She looked at him, then took a breath. The glow faded. The wind calmed. The trees returned to stillness. Her cousin stepped back, staring in silence. Sela looked at him. "Leave us. If you follow again, I won't hold back." The cousin dropped his sword. He turned, and so did the others. One by one, they vanished into the woods. Eli let out a long breath. "You weren't joking about power." "I was never the curse," she said quietly. "But now they know." Eli looked at her differently now. Not as someone weak, not as someone needing saving, but as something more, her secret power. The sky had turned dark again, but this time without warning. No storm, no wind, just a heavy stillness pressing down from above. Eli and Sela stood near a cliff's edge, looking at a valley filled with dead trees. The land below was gray and cracked, like it had stopped breathing long ago. "This is the place," Sela said softly. "No one comes here, not even the brave ones." Eli scanned the horizon. Why? They say the earth here listens, and it remembers everything, she said. Even pain. Eli gave her a look. Sounds like my kind of place. They climbed down carefully. The air felt thick, like something was waiting. Every step echoed too loud, like the land itself was watching. At the bottom, they found an old temple made of stone and roots, half swallowed by the ground. Strange glowing lines ran across the broken walls. Symbols, old and forgotten. Selah placed her hand on the wall. The lines glowed brighter. You did that, Eli said. I think this place is connected to me, she whispered. They stepped inside. The air was warmer here, softer, almost kind. In the center of the temple stood a giant tree, dead, twisted, but still standing. Its roots spread across the room like veins. Selah walked toward it slowly. I used to dream of this place, she said. When I was small, but I thought it wasn't real. She touched the tree, and something changed. The roots lit up, gold and green. The earth hummed. Eli stepped back as soft wind rose from the floor. The tree groaned, then bloomed. Right before his eyes, flowers opened on every branch. Leaves burst out. The dead tree came alive in seconds, glowing from within. Selah stood there, eyes closed, face calm. Eli couldn't speak. Her body glowed again, brighter than ever before. Not with heat, not with fire, but with life. Then her voice spoke, but not just in words, in thought, in feeling. I'm not just different. I'm connected. Eli walked closer. Connected to what? To this world, she said. To the ground, to the roots, to everything that breathes. She turned, and tears were in her eyes, but they were not from fear. I thought my power was wrong, she whispered, but this place says it's right. Eli looked at her, truly looked. You're more than they feared. You're what they needed. She shook her head. They don't want peace. They want control. And I don't fit their stories. Eli nodded. Then maybe it's time to write new ones. That night, they stayed inside the temple. Selah used her powers to grow fruits from the roots, sweet glowing berries. Eli bit into one and laughed. Okay, he said. This is better than my ration packs. She giggled, a sound he had never heard from her before. You smile now, he said. You didn't before. I forgot how, she said honestly. But you remind me. Outside the temple, the night grew darker, but inside it felt like morning. Back at the village, the elder sat alone in the fire circle. His hands trembled. His guards were quiet. The young warriors no longer asked to hunt. Whispers had spread. She was still alive, and something old had awakened in the cliffs. The land itself had begun to change. Rivers had started flowing again. Small flowers bloomed near the burial grounds. They called it a miracle. The elder called it a threat. We should have ended her, he whispered. Now, she's becoming something else. Morning came with golden light spilling into the temple. Selah stood at the edge, looking out over the valley. Green had returned to the land. Flowers moved with the wind. The soil smelled alive. Eli walked up beside her. What now? He asked. She looked down at her hands. I don't want to hide anymore, she said. But I'm not ready to fight, either. You don't have to be ready to fight, he said. You just have to be ready to stand. She turned to him. Will you stand with me? Eli looked her in the eyes. Always. The wind danced across the trees. The temple behind them pulsed with quiet energy. Somewhere deep underground, the roots carried her power across the land. A girl once buried in silence, now carried the voice of the earth, and soon, all would hear it. The final confrontation. The wind shifted. Eli felt it before he saw anything. The birds had stopped singing. The trees no longer danced. Everything had gone still, too still. Selah stood at the edge of the ancient temple, her eyes locked on the horizon. They're coming, she whispered. Eli didn't ask how she knew. He just tightened the strap on his blaster and checked the knife in his boot. How many? Too many, she said softly. The elder comes himself, with all the hunters. They know what I've done, what I've become. Eli stepped beside her. Then let them come. They'll see what you really are. No, she said. They've already decided what they believe. They're not coming to understand. They're coming to destroy. She turned to him slowly, her hands glowing faintly with golden light. But I won't run anymore. Hours later, they saw the first torch, then 20, then 100. The villagers marched across the dead valley, now alive with green and flowers. They crushed the new life beneath their feet. At the front stood the elder in black robes holding a long silver staff. His face was twisted with anger. "Show yourself, cursed one," he shouted. Eli stepped forward, calm but firm. "You need to leave." The elder glared at him. "This is not your fight, human. Go back to your broken world." Eli didn't move. "No." Behind him, Selah stepped out from the temple. Her presence seemed to change the air around her. The vines near her feet shifted, alive. The crowd gasped. Some took a step back. She wore no armor, held no weapon. Yet she looked stronger than all of them. "I am not cursed," she said. "I am part of this land. The roots accept me. The earth answers me. You feared me because you did not understand me. You poisoned our land with your gifts," the elder shouted. "You called storms. You brought disease." "No," she said firmly. "You did that, with your greed, your fires, your endless digging." She raised her hand slowly, and the land responded. Trees behind her bent forward, like bowing to a queen. Flowers bloomed in seconds. The wind swirled around her gently. The temple pulsed with light. "I begged you to listen before," she said, "but now, I will make you see." The elder raised his staff and slammed it down. "Attack!" The hunters rushed forward, blades raised. Eli stepped in front of her. "Selah, run!" "No," she whispered. "This ends now." She dropped to her knees, placed her hands on the ground, and breathed. The earth rumbled. A deep, slow vibration shook the valley. Green light burst from the cracks in the ground. Vines exploded upward, wrapping around the feet of the charging hunters, pulling them down gently, not to harm, but to hold. Some cried out in fear. Some dropped their weapons. The elder screamed, lifting his staff again, but a gust of wind knocked it from his hands. A tree behind him grew in seconds, its roots grabbing the silver staff and pulling it into the soil. He turned to run, but vines wrapped around his feet and held him still. "Please," he shouted, "you don't know what you're doing." Selah stood, her eyes glowing bright. "I'm not hurting anyone," she said. "I'm showing you the truth." She raised her arms. The valley turned green all at once. Trees bloomed. Water began to flow through an old, dry stream. The sky cleared. Light shone down through the clouds. It was beautiful. Everyone went quiet. The villagers slowly dropped to their knees, their fear melting into awe. The elder looked up at her, trembling. "What are you?" Selah took a step forward. "I'm the child you buried. I'm the girl you feared. And I'm still here, alive." She turned to Eli. "And I am not alone." Later the hunters left. Not in chains, not in shame. In silence. The villagers returned home changed. Some cried, some whispered, some asked for forgiveness. The elder was never seen again. Selah remained at the temple. The land around her kept healing. It bloomed brighter each day, and Eli stayed too, because she didn't need a savior anymore. She needed a partner. A new beginning. The sun rose over the valley like a golden promise. Light spilled across the once dead land, now green with life. Trees stood tall, roots strong, branches full of bright leaves. Flowers followed the sun. The stream, that had been dry for years now, danced with clear water. Selah stood at the edge of the ancient temple, bare feet touching soft grass that had not grown here for a generation. She was no longer the girl they buried. She was something new, and the land around her knew it. Eli walked up the stone steps carrying a satchel filled with berries and dried roots. His shirt was torn, his hands scraped, but his face was peaceful. "You're up early," he said with a smile. "I don't sleep much anymore," she replied, her voice gentle but strong. "The roots talk now. The trees remember." Eli raised an eyebrow. "Do they like me?" Selah smiled. "They don't hate you." "I'll take that," he joked. They sat beside each other on the edge of the cliff. The temple behind them glowed faintly, always alive now, never silent. Eli looked out. "Your people haven't come back." "They will," she said. "Some will be angry, some will be afraid. But many just want to understand." "You sure you want to stay here?" Eli asked. "You could leave, go to another world, start over." Selah shook her head slowly. "This is where I was hurt. This is where I was buried. But now, this is where I grow." He looked at her for a long time. "Then I stay too." She turned to him. "Why?" "Because," he said, "when I found you in that pit, I thought I was saving a lost girl. But I didn't know. You were saving me too." She didn't answer with words. She just reached out and took his hand. Days passed. The land kept healing. The animals returned. The air was cleaner. The crops began to grow wild and strong. And one by one, villagers came back, not with torches and blades, but with empty hands and quiet steps. An old woman came first. She bowed to Selah and asked for water for her sick son. Selah gave it and the boy lived. Then a group of farmers came. They asked for seeds. Selah gave them vines that never withered. Soon every part of the valley knew her name, not as a curse, but as a blessing. One day, a child approached the temple, a small girl with wide eyes and dusty feet. She held a flower in her hands. "Are you the one who talks to the earth?" she asked. Selah knelt. "I try to listen." The child gave her the flower. "Thank you for bringing the green back." Selah smiled. "Will you help me keep it green?" The girl nodded. From that day on, others followed, not to worship, but to learn. The temple became a place of growth, a place where all were welcome, where the wounded came to heal, not just in body, but in heart. One evening, as the sun dipped below the hills, Eli and Selah stood by the stream. He looked into the water, watching the reflection of stars above. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if I didn't come down into that pit?" he asked. Selah looked at him. "All the time." "And I would have died," she said softly. "But more than that, this place would have stayed broken. The truth would have stayed buried." She stepped closer. "But you dug more than dirt that night. You dug out hope." Eli laughed quietly. "You always say deep things now." "It's the roots," she teased. "They make me sound wise." They both laughed. Then silence fell between them. But it was a warm silence. A new kind of peace. Later that night, as stars filled the sky, Selah walked alone through the valley. Her hands brushed the leaves. Her fingers touched the soil. Every step she took left a small glow, a sign that she was here, alive. Not a sacrifice, not a curse, but the beating heart of a world learning to forgive itself. And high above, where no blade could reach and no lie could bury her, she bloomed.